The term health and wellness is so seemingly subjective, and yet it's not. God's design gives us evidence of what healthy really means. So let's define health today with some actual numbers and some definitions so that you'll know for sure if you're doing well. Get it? Wellness, doing well, or if you need some work. That's what we're going to talk about today. So let's go. It's review time, y'all, and today's review is a little different. I have made reference to this review in the past. I almost skipped over it and let it go, but I really wanted to address it because it's not the beautiful 5-star review. First of all, I want y'all to know that I'm real. Second of all, I want to talk about it because I think that we women sometimes just really want to attack and tear down instead of help. So let me read to you a review from back in June 21st, from Janelle Nichols. And thought about not saying her name, but she put it on here. And so let's just deal with it. The title is Miscarriage. So very sad to hear about your loss, and my heart is with you as I have lost a sweet baby as well. I was shocked to hear how medicalized and fear motivated your approach to handling it was. But I understand it is every woman's choice to handle it how she feels. My only comment is that I hope other women hearing this don't believe that you always need to take medication or to get a D&C for the pregnancy to end. I have heard many stories of failed abortions or no heartbeat at ultrasound, and then babies pull through miraculously. Happens too often to advise the approach taken. Oh, Janelle, why am I reading this? I'm reading this because for all of you listening, if you're a Christian, I want you to be more Barnabas and less this. See, my podcast name is If Mama Ain't Healthy, Ain't Nobody Healthy. It's a play on an old phrase, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And it reminds me of another phrase. That phrase is, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Or at the very least, if you can't say something nice, actually talk to the person personally rather than in a public forum where there's no way for me to respond other than this. Especially when it obviously shows that you're not paying attention. I'll address that a little bit more in a minute, but it also shows, or it's a topic that is so very personal and so very individualized. And it is a topic that I did not have to share, but I chose to because so many other women are going to go through similar situations. And I wanted to help you see a real life situation. So many times we just hear about it in platitudes or what ifs, but it's never actual real stories. And now you've got an actual real story, just so you know you're not alone. I did it for the sake of so many of you who will walk this road. But aside from that, I want you to go back and listen to episode 133. Because, see, my number one recommendation in episode 133, which by the way was before I had the miscarriage, or maybe right about the same time I was having it, actually, if I look back at the dates, my number one recommendation was to wait and see. My number one recommendation was not to take medication. My number one recommendation was not to go get a D&C. In fact, those were way out down the list, and I wasn't even advising them. I was just telling you these are things you're going to be offered because if you listen to the overall tone of the episode, it is that you don't have to hurry up and decide. However, in my case, that you don't understand, I am 43 years old. And there are certain things that have a little bit more risk when you're a little bit older. And I had some of the symptoms that lined up with that risk, which is an ectopic, which is a medical emergency if it happens or if it ruptures. Okay? So see, there were symptoms that you don't know or understand. Medical intervention is not the first choice. It was not my first choice. This was days into the process, many days into the process, not day one. And so the whole picture matters. I bet if I had had an ectopic and I had ignored it because I tell you guys to be natural minded and then recorded this later and told you the story, I bet you that you would have been the one that left me the review saying, you shouldn't have been so natural. You should have gone to the hospital. I never have and never will recommend medication or D&C for most people, most anyone. Most people don't need it. But you got to listen to the whole story before you start leaving your opinions, and you got to listen to somebody's whole perspective. You don't understand what you were saying. You don't understand what was happening. I didn't tell everything on the podcast. I told a lot, but not everything. This wasn't a failed abortion. This wasn't no heartbeat at ultrasound alone. This was a baby that was already gone. And the medical professional knew it. They just were scared to say it. It happens all the time, by the way. Happens all the time that they just won't put the title on it. Seen it happen as a professional also. But I do know I can't please everyone. So I hope that those of you who are listening are like, why did she address this? I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to say that when you leave negative reviews, first of all, you hurt a real person. Second of all, that real person has a real story. And third of all, there are better ways to handle it. And if you will look at the Bible, it gives examples of how to talk to someone when maybe you think they're doing something that isn't right. And it is not to go in a public forum to do so. So I'll leave that for what it is. Don't be a keyboard warrior. For the rest of y'all, if y'all have problems with people on podcasts, if you have problems with things you see posted online, talk to the person. Don't put them on blast. Don't be a keyboard warrior. Don't be the one who can just type so big but would never say the thing to the person's face, because that's the kind of person you want to be, the kind with integrity who talks a person to their face. Yeah, so be sure you listen to the whole story so you don't end up looking foolish, and don't be a keyboard warrior. That'll make you more healthy, because if mom ain't healthy, ain't nobody healthy. And if you're not healthy up here because you're making bad choices to discourage other women, that's not who God wants us to be. All right, now that we got that out of the way, that was fun, right? I want to get into what actual health is. We're not talking about mental health today. I think what we just talked about kind of touched on a little bit of mental health and about how to be strong mentally, but we're going to go into physical health today. Now, mental is part of it. We will touch on that in some other episodes. It's all connected. It's not like these two are separate. But today we're going to talk about how God designed your body to physically work. Okay, and how can you tell if you are functioning that way? How did He design your body? Think about it. Every part of your body gives evidence, it reveals a little bit of God's intention for what He meant for that thing, that system, that tissue, that part, whatever you want to call it, to do. That's the lens that we need to use. That's what we need to be looking through when we're looking at whether or not we're healthy. Are our bodies working the way God meant for them to work? Because the term healthy that you hear so often is really subjective in general. You know, you may think that you're healthy, but are you really? Most people will tell you they're healthy if they're just not really actively sick right now. That's really pretty much the medical world's perspective. You know, if you're not sick, then you're healthy. But is that truly healthy? What does it mean to be healthy? The basis of health is on a cellular level, because your body is just a whole bunch of cells that are arranged perfectly to do certain jobs. Okay. All the organs, all the parts, all the tissues, all the cells, everything. I said cells about cellular, of course, cells, but everything is made up of cells. And those cells each have functions. And that's the level we're talking about health. Are your cells able to do what they are designed to do? Metabolic health is on that cellular level. Metabolic health is the ability to have the energy to do what you need to do. It's what gives cells the energy to do what they need to do. And so if you're consistently giving your body the right kinds of energy, then your cells can do what they need to do, and they can do it well. That is health. Okay, when they can do it efficiently, that is health. There are signs on the outside of whether that's happening. These are the signs and symptoms you hear about. These are what reveals what's going on the inside, but sometimes they don't reveal themselves right away. Sometimes your body will maintain for some given period of time, even if you're not actually healthy. See, I thought I was healthy. I thought I was doing pretty good. I didn't have any out of normal labs for years and years and years. I mean, really never I'd had any abnormal labs other than the few that I talked about during pregnancy that I've told you about in other episodes. I'd had 3 normal pregnancies. I'd never had any miscarriages before the last one. I'm talking about before these happened, or that happened. I breastfed for years with no issues. I almost never get sick. So on the surface, I thought I was doing pretty well. But when I started learning more about metabolic health, I started thinking, I wonder if there's something going on, because it's just some little things like the weight that would not drop off no matter what I did, no matter how hard I was exercising, no matter how much I cut back on food, I could not drop these pounds. And I made excuses. I actually started telling myself that, they always told me that you would lose a bunch of weight if you breastfeed. That's what I always read in school. That's what I'd always heard. But maybe my body is just hanging on to the weight just so that it's got the reserves, so that if I didn't have food, then I would be able to still make milk. I was rationalizing things like, well, maybe there's more to it. Maybe, I'm okay. Maybe it's breastfeeding that's causing this. I told myself that maybe it was because I was older. I was in my 40s now. Maybe that's why the weight won't fall off. And ultimately, I would just say it's not that bad. I'm just barely overweight. By my BMI, I was just a tad bit into the overweight category. Most people are way, way into the overweight category, right? And that was where I was messing up. I was comparing myself to most people, not to God's design for how He made my body to work. We can't, in anything in life, compare ourselves to other people. When we're talking about sin or we're talking about how we live our lives, we don't compare ourselves to other people. We compare ourselves to Jesus. He's our standard. And when it comes to our health, our other people can't be our standard. Our standard has to be how our bodies are designed to work and how God made them to work. So it turns out there was more that I was ignoring. And once I put the work in and I did the labs and I found out what was really going on, I found out I was insulin resistant and I had metabolic dysfunction. And these were all hanging out underneath those pounds that wouldn't fall off. And it put me square in the middle of pre-diabetic and on my way to being a type 2 diabetic in a few years. So that for reference, I was 5'8", or I am 5'8", 5'8" tall. At the time, I was around 170 pounds. That just barely, like I said, put me into the overweight category when looking at the body mass index, which isn't the greatest way to look at your body, but it is a standard way we can look at it. But here's the thing, that 170 was more than I'd ever been. I knew it wasn't quite right. I wasn't huge, but I was bigger than I'd really ever been. And I couldn't figure out why the pounds wouldn't fall off. But when I addressed that underlying issue, those pounds fell off easily. And I'm not even done yet, but I'm finally back to where I've been for most of my life. And I'm more toned and I'm more lean than I've ever been. Even if you trace back to when I was playing sports back in school, I'm more toned than I was then when I was doing all kinds of physical activity because of the junk that I was eating at that phase in my life. So now that I'm eating well and I'm managing my body weight well and I'm getting my steps in and I'm just doing a little bit of light weights, not much, not going to the gym by any means, I have more muscle tone and I'm more lean than I've ever been. See, we mess up when we just guess at what's going on. There are actually some fairly easy tests that can reveal so much and help you get direction, but most providers are not doing them. That's actually part of what I do with my one-on-one coaching program, is that we dive deep into those labs and we analyze them against each other in a way that no provider out there in the regular medical world is doing, mainly because insurance doesn't cover some of these tests, so they won't even run them. It's crazy. These are really good tests that tell us a whole lot of information, but you will have to argue with your doctor to get them to even order it. So today I want to help you to start this mental process of thinking, am I really healthy or do I have improvements to make? At the end of the day, only about 6% of the population is actually truly healthy on a metabolic level. That's how unhealthy our country is. So don't feel alone if you have to answer no to any of these questions that I'm about to go through. You are actually normal, but you're not healthy, because see, unhealthy is normal these days. I want you to be abnormal because I want you to be healthy and I want to help you get there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through reading a list of questions that I want you to ask yourself. And these are just a few. It's not exhaustive by any means, but these are some things to get you thinking about, do I do that? Is that something I could improve on? Is this a place that I could work and find more health? All right. So if for these questions, if you're answering yes, yes means health, no means you're not as healthy in this area. All right. So let's go. And this, by the way, I know that occasionally men listen to this podcast, but this podcast is directed at women. So the numbers that I will quote are more so directed towards women. Men's are going to be a little bit different, especially like about this first one, which is waist circumference. Is your waist circumference less than 35 inches? If you want to measure that, get you a measuring tape like what you use for sewing or something like that. Measure right around your belly button. Is your waist circumference less than 35 inches? Is your fasting glucose somewhere between 70 and 85? Are your triglycerides below 80? Is your blood pressure less than 120 over 80? Is your your fasting insulin very close to zero? No more than about 2 to 5. Do you get around 7 to 10,000 steps in per day? Do you eat organic, protein-based meals? Do you read labels? When you're shopping at the store, are you reading those labels and looking at those ingredients and making choices based on what's in them? Do you eat most of your meals at home? Do you sleep 7 to 8 hours a night? Do you have a consistent bedtime and a consistent waking time within maybe an hour or so, like an hour or so window? Do you feel rested when you wake up? Can you go for more than 4 hours during the day without eating and feel good? Can you fast for at least 14 hours without difficulty? Do you easily refuse sugary drinks and foods? Do you easily refuse salty drinks and foods? Probably not salty drinks, but salty foods. Can you go through the afternoon without coffee or energy drinks? Do you avoid processed foods? And in these questions that are going to come, I'm going to say the word avoid. That doesn't mean you just kind of dodge them, but occasionally bump into them. Avoid means you are choosing not to partake of these things. So do you avoid processed foods? Are you intentional about your food choices and your food times, meaning what time of day that you're eating? Do you spend time outdoors every day? Hopefully getting close to 3 hours at least every day. Are you getting exposure to first morning sun? Like first thing when you wake up in the morning, are you getting into the sunlight? Do you avoid screens in the evening, meaning TVs, computers, cell phones, all the things? Do you avoid those in the evenings, especially that last hour before you're going to sleep? Do you avoid eating and drinking from plastic? Do you avoid conventional soaps, conventional shampoos, cleaning products, etc.? Just like all the things that, you pretty much find at every store. All the conventional products that are loaded with chemicals and perfumes. Do you have a positive outlook and mindset? Do you have positive self-talk? Are you kind to others as a default? Do you pray prayers of gratitude and thankfulness? Do you use a filter for your water that removes chemicals, including fluoride? Do you drink your body weight in water? Do you drink half of your body weight in water in ounces each day? Meaning if you're 150 pounds, do you drink 75 ounces of water per day? Do you avoid alcohol? Do you avoid artificial dyes? Do you avoid natural flavors? Because, by the way, let me just throw this in if you aren't aware, the term natural flavor or it's usually natural flavors, is a way that companies can hide chemicals without telling you what they are. So the term natural flavors can mean any number of chemicals and they're not on the label. So do you avoid that term natural flavors on a label? Do you avoid tobacco? Do you avoid other drugs? Do you avoid over-the-counter medications? Do you avoid antibiotics? Do you avoid birth control? Do you avoid candles in other scents, like to scent up your room and make things, quote, smell good? Is your laundry detergent made from non-toxic ingredients with no perfumes? Do you avoid perfumes and colognes? Do you use deodorant that is unscented and aluminum free? Now, I know that was a lot of questions, but believe it or not, that's not all of them. It's just some. And that list, as I said, is not exhaustive and it's not definitive, but it is some things to think about if you're going to start making changes in your life to be more healthy. All of these things actually matter. All of them impact other ones. They all fit together in some way, and they all are, if you're not doing them, they are all things that will work against God's design for your body, no matter which part of your body you're talking about. Each thing, whether it be the perfumes that put chemicals and toxins on your skin, which is your largest organ, whether we're talking about antibiotics, which everybody will say, and I can hear you right now saying, oh, but antibiotics can save your life. Yeah, they can. And about this many, as I'm holding my fingers up on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, go subscribe. But this many things, most, like the vast majority of antibiotic prescription in our country today is not life-saving, and it is life-altering because of what it does to your gut. Your gut is where your immune system lives. So when you put antibiotics in, you are attacking a system that God put there to protect you, and you're attacking it. So it's another attack on God's design. Drinking from plastic puts microplastics into your body. That causes your body to not be able to get the toxins out the same way it needs to. This is attack on God's design. If you're not getting the steps in each day, you're not moving your body. God put us in the beginning in a garden. He did not put us behind desks with computers in front of us. And so we have to work hard to get our bodies back where He designed them to be, which is active. You see where I'm going with this? Like each one of the things, I just highlighted a few there. Each one of the things is something that our culture and our world is causing to not function in the way that God designed it to. All right. So I know that many of you are trying to make some choices to do better, and these are many ideas for things that you can do better. And the labs I mentioned, even, they're just a few, they're a small few. There are more that you need to know so that you can have a good idea of how your health is doing. And there's a certain level of interpretation that you really need so that you can know how they all fit together. Again, those are part of this, they're a standard part of what I check when you enroll in my one-on-one coaching program. So all my coaching clients have already had those done, and they're getting that analysis. There are labs, again, that most practitioners don't bother to draw. And even if they do, all they're looking at is does it flag? Basically, if you look at a lab report that you get back from the lab, it'll have the name of the lab, the result, what the normal range is, and if yours is outside of that, it will be red. And if your lab report comes back with no reds on it, your doctor is going to glance at it, say, "You're doing great," and send you on your way, tell you you have no problems. But that's not the whole story. And beyond the fact that their ranges are usually way off in that they give you way too much wiggle room, they're not optimal, they're just, quote, normal. Those normals are based on our world and our culture. That's where they get the numbers from. And so they are based on an unhealthy population. I look at them based on what health is and what optimal health is. And so these are things that are a little different when you work with a practitioner like me inside of a coaching program. I look at things like high sensitivity CRP. I look at vitamin D. I look at something called HOMA IR, which is a calculation that looks at insulin resistance. I look at a detailed lipid panel because what you've been told about cholesterol your whole life is pretty much wrong. And so we look at what those different numbers mean and how they either contribute or take away from your health. We look at comprehensive thyroid panel if you need it. And we look at antibodies, meaning is your body attacking your thyroid. We look at liver enzymes because your liver has such an integral role in your metabolism. And so we look at it and what the different enzymes are showing us about how well your liver is functioning. I look at uric acid, I look at more. There's just so much. And so I just want you to be aware that the labs that I mentioned, like I mentioned, your fasting insulin, that's just one small data point. There are so many. And not that it's so many that you can't know it. It's just that you need to realize that if you go to your doctor and they do your annual labs, they're going to run them. They're going to glance at a paper. They're going to, if there's a red flag, they'll address that one red flag. They will not look at the full picture because they just don't. Probably because they don't have time, but I won't go into that today. I just want you to be thinking, am I healthy? Am I doing what I need to do to support the way God made my body to work? Am I moving my body? Am I feeding my body well so that I have good energy for my cells? Am I sleeping in the way that God designed me to sleep? Am I managing my circadian rhythms so that I can wake up rested? Am I managing my diet times? Not necessarily, when I say diet, by the way, I don't mean like being on a diet. I mean like what you eat. Am I managing what I'm eating and when I'm eating so that my metabolism works the way that it's supposed to? So many things for you to think about. And if it seems like it's just too much, it is a lot. And when you don't have the perspective and the background that someone like me has, it's hard to kind of piece it all together. But that's why I'm here, and that's why I do what I do. And I work with women who are ready to understand. They are ready to complement God's design, work with God's design. They are tired of working against it. They're tired of the onslaught of attacks from the world, and they are ready to finally be healthy and feel well. So if that sounds like you can either email me, that's going to be down in the show notes, or you can head over to Instagram, send me a DM. I'd love to talk with you to see about whether the program is a good fit for you. And until next week, I hope that you will share this episode with someone that you know can benefit from it. If you haven't left me a review, hopefully a positive review, please do that. If you have a negative review or a complaint or something that you disagree with, contact me. I'll be glad to talk to you. I'm a real person and I am here, and I can be wrong, by the way. And so if you see something that you think is wrong, please send me an email. I'd love to talk to you. If you have a negative review, if you could just not leave it on Apple Podcasts, that'd be great, because you cause me to make it harder to reach other mothers who do need this information. So thank you to those of you who have been here for so long. Thank you for your support and your encouragement. And I look forward to talking to you again right back here next week.